Hello.
Hello. Morning, everyone. I think we can go ahead and get started. All right, so welcome back to the contributor office hours meeting. I'm your host for today. So let's get started. As usual, we have the discussion moderators for this week. So first, Leo and Justin, did you want to take it away with, it looks like a couple issues you listed here?
Looks like Justin's not on. Leo won't be able to join, but I think the main thing he wanted to talk about was issue 12589.
Okay.
So someone commented on a pull request saying that they had had an incident because we changed the a protobuf spec to change the name of a field from project to projects.
Okay.
That ended up being important because that field is used as a filter for commands, including the delete command. So I don't know if it was a CI process or they were just sitting at their CLI, but they deleted some applications expecting the project filter to apply. But since they were using an old version of the CLI with the old protobuf, the field was never used to filter the application. So deleted all their applications. Not great. So Leo opened this issue, which is basically find some way to make sure that like breaking API changes don't slip through the cracks.
Okay.
And I'm not sure the best way to do that, but we should think about it. The other thing that we should consider, I think, is like re-adding the singular form as an additional field. So that the API continues to be backwards compatible, and we just, pick whichever one is actually populated.
Yeah, I'm on board for re-adding the projects, or sorry, the project field. Yeah, I think that makes the most sense. Yeah, and I'm in agreement with an API contract test as a concept. Yeah, I don't have any ideas at the moment the best way to do that, but yeah, open to the floor if anybody has suggestions.
Just about this specific issue. So first, hello, I'm Mathieu. I'm working at Conto, and we had this issue. That's why someone from my team contacted Hong Wang on LinkedIn, and indeed we upgraded Argo CD, but we had a script that was listing applications for a specific project to delete it. To delete all the applications belonging to a project, and the field was changed to projects. So instead of listing only the application for the given project, it returns everything, and we deleted 66,000 applications, which was kind of bad, but it's okay. Now it's we fixed the issue on our side, but we indeed missed it when we read the changelog and also on the Argo CD upgrade procedures. So indeed, but it was visible in the merge request because we found the commit which introduced the issue, and it's visible on the Swagger spec update. Maybe it can be something which can be used to detect this kind of regressions. If the spec is updated for an existing endpoint, maybe it can be detected that way.
So actually, I have a question for Michael. Was this not expected? So like it was changed and it wasn't documented, and that was the problem, and that's why we need this test? Or I guess when this breaking API change got made, was it not thought that it might be breaking, and that was why we need a test to detect if it's going to be a breaking change? Or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so at the time that it was merged, I think Leo and the reviewers saw there's a tag on that field that sets a custom name, and the custom name said project. So just at a quick glance, the expectation was, oh, well, projects is the same as projects because we set a custom name. But in reality, like protobuf itself pays no respect to that tag custom name. It only uses the field name. So it just kind of slipped by. Afterwards, we noticed places where like our UI code expected the old project instead of projects field, and we went through and updated all those. But as we did that, it just never occurred to anyone that this would break backwards compatibility for old CLIs. I think we had just focused on the UI too much.
I see. Okay.
And in our company, we are using a lot of custom scripts as well, not the CLI, but Python or Golang scripts interacting with the API. So indeed, we were kind of expected a backward compatible thing. I mean, when we only upgrade Argo CD, we expect that the old script will continue to work. The script written for the previous release.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm in agreement that this is something we should do. Is there a priority label? Not really. Okay. But yeah, I think Michael, like you said, we'll probably need to think about the best way to do this, probably offline, unless anybody has any other suggestions. Okay. Michael, is it okay if we move on?
Yep, I think this is good.
Great. Thanks for bringing that up. And tell Leo thank you as well. Okay, and then Justin, are you here yet? Or
I was able to make it.
okay, great. Did you have? I see we're secondary for this week. Did you have any issues that popped up?
I didn't really have the time this week. Go ahead and leave me in secondary. I'll make sure I'll do it this week.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Great, thanks. All right, so let's pick the primary for this week then. First, we have any volunteers? No? Okay. In that case, I can go ahead and do it for this week. All right. So moving on to the next item on the agenda. Looks like Nate. Nate, are you here? You had topic 4, supporting multiple AOP ingress.
Hi there. Yeah. Hey, nice to meet everyone. Thanks for your time today. Yeah, I can give a quick summary. If that's okay. Basically, it's supporting multiple ingress objects based on ALBs. Recently, we've also the team has also worked.
Păstrează pe tuturor acolo și nu-l mai găsim.
I think that's Alex. Yep.
Alex, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I've also based the POC patch on the Nginx patch by T Purdue there. And I realize you guys were working on that PR in the past couple months or so. So yeah, I'd like any thoughts on that. Internally, this was kind of a deal breaker for us because the workarounds are kind of clunky. Mainly having multiple rollouts per ingress and then putting the onus on the operator to progress each rollout individually. So fortunately, we've had an internal organization that was willing to implement this in prod. So we've had this running for about 4 to 5 months now in about half a dozen apps. So yeah, I was wondering if it was appropriate to submit a PR with the POC code at this time, or if we should wait, or what we could do next.
So I saw Zach had closed it in a comment in favor for another thing. Is that referring to the one we're looking at now? Or
That's correct. Yeah, I think 710 here was closed in favor of this enhancement proposal.
I see. Okay. I think Zach's not here, right? But looks like Zach is on board with this since he's targeting it to the next milestone and then managing the issues. So it seems appropriate that you can send a pull request for this, and should be accepted. It looks like I even commented on the other issue.
Okay,
Saying
okay,
that makes
awesome.
sense.
appreciate that. Yeah, I'll get that in this week. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that, Nate. Okay,
Yeah,
so
no
moving on to next agenda topic, Zach. I think somebody said Zach's not here, but did somebody else want to talk about the CLA for Argo Project Labs?
I think I know what the issue is. There's some defaults in Argo Project Labs for how new repos are set up, and I think they're all set up to require a CLA instead of DCO. But like, as far as I know, all of the other main repos just require DCO. So I don't know who can make that change, but it seems like we should.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Jesse, do you know who would be able to make that change? I know I can't.
Yeah, I think I can do it, but this is just switching to away from that the outdated bot to the DCO requirement.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Jesse. So next topic is from Michael, logs viewer improvements. I know Alex Collins has, I can't remember if it's an enhancement proposal or a PR that, but is that what this is about, Michael?
Yeah, he's got a PR, and he was online a minute ago.
Oh,
But I'm happy to show what he's worked on because I'm inclined to get it merged, but I want to get some feedback first.
sure.
So if you're okay with it, I'll share it.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Let's see, desktop 3. Okay, so on the left is, and sorry if this is kind of small, but hopefully you'll get the sense. The left is the current state. And some of the issues I've encountered are it's just a lot of buttons, particularly this row here with the pagination up, down, left, right. To this moment, I'm not sure what the left and right and the double right buttons do. So Alex's work eliminates the sort of pagination tools in favor of infinite scrolling. He used some React library to make that performant. And we now have this drop down for container names. This button I still don't really like, but basically it turns on and off follow mode. So if I turn off follow mode, I get these 2 additional drop downs to show how many lines I want to see and the period of time I want to see them for. We still have this previous logs button, which shows like old containers logs. Still don't really like it because it's not really clear at a glance what it does, but the tooltip is fine. Filter moves over here. Instead of having a button to negate, we now just have a tooltip that says how to negate with an exclamation point. I think this is new. Alex added this thing to show the pod names. Looks a little bit broken, but ideally you would just see this. I think everything else remains the same. It's just got sort of the copy, download, pop out buttons off to the right now. He did replace the check boxes with a more sort of loud yellow active state, which I think is fine. Like these check boxes are kind of a non-standard way to do things inside of these pills. Yeah, I think there's still work to do, but I think this is enough of an improvement that if there aren't strong objections, I'd like to clean up these last few bugs in it and get it merged.
Yeah. So I have a few thoughts on this. So like you said, I think that there's a few bugs and just polish issues, which I would I'd be okay with taking a look and maybe taking care of some of them. Like it's a little bit unclear with the way that it's laid out, like some of the filters in the text field just looks a little bit too close to me and it's kind of confusing what's going on. I also don't love that the buttons overflow to the right. But I think that I'm in complete agreement that the checkbox to show the active state is a poor way of doing it. And I also completely agree that infinite scrolling is ideal. But yeah, I think I think you're right that this overall is an improvement, but I think it's still not ideal. And I would actually love to get potentially a designer to take a look at this and come up with some suggestions. Because yeah, I think it's improving on the current state, but it still has a lot of issues from the current state. So yeah, I agree. If we can get some of that polished, it would be good to merge, but yeah, it still needs more work.
Okay, so I will hold off merging them. I agree, like, yeah, it does feel a bit tight and cluttered. So Alex is like excited to push this PR forward. I know that ideally we would love to have some designer help on it. Do you think you'd be able to go back and forth with him enough to get it to a state where it's like enough of an improvement to merge and lacks enough issues to merge? Or should we legit just block on getting a designer to like cover everything?
I don't think we should block on getting a designer to take a look at it. I think we can, as long as we get the bugs removed. And I mean, like I said, I'm willing to take a look at it and try to polish some of the clunkiness, like I said, the overflow and the layout. So I'll take a look at that and just, kind of do the best that I can. But I think we can get it merged based on that, and then as a next step to improve the log viewer overall, I think we'll talk to a designer. So
Can you do the no follow mode and see show me one? So this is the frozen.
no, this is follow mode, I think,
Okay,
right?
Go back. Sorry, go back to the frozen mode. So actually one experience that seems worse than before was just going, let's say I just missed the log line that I needed to see. Whereas the other experience, you could actually page left or to see like the line. I don't know how to query with using the new controls to see like, okay, I want to see the line like the one I just missed.
Sure, to me, that's bump into 1,000 logs, search for a term in the line that you missed. My problem with pagination is I don't know, like logs are they're constantly moving. So if I page back, am I going to be seeing the page before, or am I going to be seeing the page before as now evaluated with new log lines having been added?
I see what you're saying.
So are you saying the previous experience doesn't achieve my use case anyways? Because it's
not with confidence. I think that it does. If I click back, my expectation is I'll probably see the previous line that I'm trying to see, but I'm not confident that like new logs haven't moved my line.
And the other way doesn't have way. I see too. I mean, at the end of the day, this is just using the Kubernetes API for the logs, which also is limited in that regard. I guess it's not as if we're doing something magic to be able to page in left and right in the frozen state.
Yeah, I think what the frozen state does is it's just, I mean, it makes one API call to get the logs, and then it just doesn't refetch. And I can't remember, I'd have to take a look at the code. I can't remember if when you click the back button, if it recalls the API, because if it does, then Michael's concerned that, like, you're right, Michael, your log line could move and then you wouldn't be able to see it. But I don't think that it requeries the API on clicking the back buttons, in which case nothing would move, it would just remain the same. But yeah, I would have to look to confirm.
That would just be my concern if we are breaking that experience, where it's like someone who is used to looking at the logs and then say, okay, so my line is not there, go back another page, go back another page. That's experience is a lot different in this new one. They have to search for things, I guess, rather than browse for things.
And it's possible my concerns about pagination could be solved with a few UI tweaks. For example, we could show something that's like logs are paused. We need tooltips for these because even talking about it, I don't really know the difference between all these buttons.
So I had a PR open and I thought it got merged. Maybe it's just because this is running 2.6.1 that added labels to these buttons. And it says, it says what they do. So I think the one on the left is just the back button. Then the down arrow on the left is to go to the bottom. Then the up arrow is to go to the top. Then on the right, the far right with the double arrows is to go to the most recent page. And then the one right arrow is just to go to the next page. But yeah, I think I merged PR to add labels to these, but maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, I agree. Another thought about the new log viewer that I'm not a huge fan of is having a tooltip describing that you should add an exclamation point to your text field if you want to negate it. I feel like that's just a little bit more confusing. Like, I think that the button is just a little bit clearer and easier. We could add a tooltip to the button to make it obvious what the button is doing, but or maybe don't use an exclamation point, use something else, like I don't know, another icon or something.
Yep, makes sense. Something that I think we could cherry pick out of this is I really like the container selector.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea as well. And I think, yeah, that's a lot better.
It's too narrow, but like seeing
Yeah.
the first container name really clarifies it.
Right.
Anyway, okay.
Cool.
We'll hold off on the PR then, and Remington, if you could just comment on the PR and let Alex know what your concerns are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even be happy to push some commits as well. So cool. Thanks, guys. Let me get my agenda back up. Okay. Great. So moving on, it looks like we have two more agenda topics from Blake and Justin. So Blake or Justin, do you guys want to speak to this?
I think maybe it's Justin, because Justin couldn't make it. Well, he said he couldn't make it, but now he's here. So maybe it's better since he was suggesting to talk about this. Otherwise I can, but the gist of it is anyway, just to try to have a better triaging for all the incoming PRs and issues that we have, really. And Justin is suggesting to have a dedicated channel for maintainers and reviewers to be able to triage and view incoming PRs. But I don't know if anything more specific. Justin would have to say something more specific about that.
Sure. Justin, do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to brainstorm with Blake. I know I got to give a lot of credit to Blake. He's been putting in a lot of hard work doing reviews and helping out. I'm going to try to join him so we can get some of these PRs down. I'm just thinking, should we have a private Slack channel so we could communicate with the reviewers better and we don't flood the other channels?
I think I'm on board with that idea. I think the only thing that I would want to make sure of is that there's not already something that exists out there. So I know that there's an Argo contributors channel. So perhaps that would be a good place to do this, unless there's just too much noise there. But yeah, I'm on board for the general idea of being able to communicate about issue triage and PR review in a channel. But yeah, before we create a new one, I think I would want to make sure that there's nothing that exists already. Shobik asked private channel or a different public channel. So I'm not sure, Blake or Justin.
I was hoping for a private channel just for members and approvers and reviewers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that exists at the moment. I'm not sure if anybody else knows definitively, but I don't think that exists. So if that's the case, then yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That way, the approvers can maybe get a more general idea of what's going on and which PRs have been reviewed and are ready for a second look.
Yeah.
Any
Uh,
reason why that should be private?
I just think it would cause a lot of noise. We could make it public. I just was hoping like a lot of the public just didn't come in. Hey, my PR is ready for review, just for us to improve the workflow.
I see.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually, because I was thinking the same as Jan a bit, but there is just having something. I mean, people who want their PRs reviewed, I mean, they're already going to Argo to contributors, right?
Yeah.
So it would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, we would set rules for the public channel, and if somebody violates, we effectively point them to the rules and discourage such behavior. But going for a private channel feels a little opposite from the direction that we would like to have as an openness, as that's an open source project, unless it's private for a very strong reason like security or internal conversations which cannot be public.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I was also thinking about, you know, one of our core values is transparency, right? So, but I also can see the reasoning for like,
yeah, same here.
an undisturbed place to discuss things.
Well,
So,
we already have public channels, right? To contributor. So I think a reason maybe for private channel is you may become, if it's a public, and then someone they may become too chatty. But someone wants to, they have their PR review, then maybe start, you know, advertising in that. So we already have a public channel, so we can use that. You know, if you but private, maybe, you know, maybe we can a channel that you can balance, you know, maybe talk to, you know, your someone here. You may not want to invite too many conversation, like they may maybe turn it into a you know, a contributor channel. Try to come up with a, you know, reason why we may be a private channel. Maybe we don't, if it is a public channel, I think we can just use the contributor.
Yeah, I agree with the thought that we could just continue to use the Argo contributors channel. But somebody in the chat mentioned that we could potentially have a public channel that is read only unless you have explicit permission to write. I think that might be a good idea. I'm not sure if that's possible in Slack, but yeah, I agree that if we're just going to open a second public channel, then perhaps we can just use Argo contributors, because I think that's sort of the point of Argo contributors at the moment.
I mean, if we have admin on the Argo Slack, then I think the suggestion that Panos gave would work. I think we do. But then if you were to do the same thing on CNCF Slack, we wouldn't be able to do what Panos recommended.
I see. I think that the Argo Slack is defunct and no longer used. I think that we migrated everything to the CNCF Slack. So in that case,
and we could request CNCF to set up a Slack channel like that.
Yeah,
no harm asking. And like we can get a no, and then we look for other options. But we can ask. Then that way we solve the noise issue as well as, you know, staying open. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, I think that's unless anybody has strong objections, I think maybe that's a good middle ground where we requested CNCF to create a channel where it's read only to the public, but certain members can, I guess it would be members, approvers, reviewers for our Argo project would have write access. Blake and Justin, does this sound like a good compromise?
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, if you would you guys be willing to request with the CNCF about getting that channel created?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
Great. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Okay, so moving on to the next agenda topic, also from Blake and Justin, I think. Yeah. Okay, great. So manually labeling PRs with t-shirt sizing and moving the FAQ to the main nav section.
Yeah, basically just, I mean, it's continuing the same topic. So in better triaging for both issues, incoming issues, and as well as making it more clear for developers, because there's been quite a few issues where it's not, well, to put it mildly, it's not great great quality. So maybe just putting the FAQ more into the forefront in the PR templates. This is as well as expanding upon the FAQ to kind of encourage better PRs, basically. As for exactly how that will look like, it's to be determined.
Sure. So firstly, I think that t-shirt sizing is a great idea, and that's fairly easy to implement. We can just add new labels. In addition to t-shirt sizing for triage, I think one of the issues that came up before, I was looking for a priority label. I think Kubernetes does this. They have like priority, low, medium, high, urgent, things like that. I think that would potentially be another good way of triaging. And yeah, I completely agree about getting more visibility onto the developer guide. I think putting it in the issue template would be good, or the PR template. Cool. Unless there's any objections, I think you guys have to go ahead to do that, and that would be really helpful.
I have a quick question about the t-shirt sizing. Wouldn't the sizing be subjective to whoever's looking at the issue? Like, would we have like an agreement on how we see a particular issue? Someone might think it's small, someone else might think it's more involved. Is there some way to get around that?
I think it would be really difficult to quantify that, and I think by nature it would just have to be sort of subjective. I don't think that there's really an objective way to quantify that. I mean, you could do things like number of files changed or lines of code changed, but I don't think that that's a great heuristic, because it could be a 2-line change that would break the API, and then it's like, that needs to be in Excel, but it's a really small change. Like something like that, I think would be difficult. So I think it would have to be up to probably the reviewers to decide whoever's triaging. I think that's maybe the point of this, that it sounds like Blake and Justin are trying to review more and triage more. So people like them that are actively reviewing PRs, looking at PRs, instead of going into the PR and reviewing it, they can take a quick look, see what the PR is doing, label it really quickly, and then somebody else that wants to review later on can go and see if they're looking for something quick, they can filter on extra small, things like that. I think it just has to be subjective.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are some actions we could implement, but it just basically goes off the line count size. And like you said, it might be 2 changes and it could break the API. It's going to have to be up to the reviewers and the members to decide what the correct size is.
Right. Okay. Great. Yeah. So if you guys want to implement that, then you're more than welcome to. That's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we're on the last agenda topic. So adding more to the dev FAQ. I think you guys just mentioned this briefly. Was there anything more you wanted to talk about here, or?
No, it was part of the same point.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a great improvement to make. Cool. So it looks like that's the end of our agenda so far. Does anybody have any last minute topics or thoughts on previous agenda topics that we didn't cover? Okay. Well, in that case, we will end a little bit early, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.